All right, so we're gonna do like quick little Q&A with Dan about some of the comments and questions we got. So one of the comments here is spent all that money and could have had the same result with a good cam, throttle body, and injectors.
To start with this one, I don't even know where to start, it's so funny. So Buddy says a good cam, throttle body, and injectors. First of all, if you're putting a cam in your M8, you don't need a throttle body and you don't need injectors. If you want to put a throttle body to get more air, to give a little bit more fuel, you still don't need injectors if you're only doing a cam. You don't need it. There's no point to put it. You will not even use, you won't even use 3/4 of the threshold of the duty cycle of your stock injectors running just a cam, as you said. So just a cam on these M8s, the biggest cam you can put without going in to the cylinder heads and taking them off and doing valve springs and all that other good stuff is gonna be either Fueling's 475 or S&S, I think makes a 476 or something, whatever. They're around the same, 475, the other one makes a 470. If that's the biggest cam you can do from the reputable brands without changing valve springs. So you're telling me that you're gonna put a good cam, just a good cam and intake and injectors, right? So first of all, you can't change your cam without changing adjustable push rods. Otherwise, you're taking the rocker boxes off and everything, and you're turning it into more work than just a good cam. Secondly, just a good cam doesn't give you the need for injectors or an intake. Now, that being said, with a 107, with a 114, and with a 117, go ahead and put the biggest drop-in cam you can put in, which drop-in meaning cam adjustable push rods, cam install kit, because obviously you got to put new bearings and new timing cover gasket. That's the bare minimum. Now, you do that and tune it, you're making 110-ish. Depending on your pipe, you might make up to 115-ish. Granted, on a good day, you might see a little more. The average is 110 to 115. We've done tons. I've had guys bring graphs from other shows. Everybody does that. I don't care what ancient dyno your tuner tuned on that throws big numbers. I don't care if it was a Bazaz dyno that throws 13, 15, 20 horse more and it's not real power, or if your tuner is terrible and he just gave you the leanest tune possible to show a big number to kind of give you a little boner. At the end of the day, the biggest cam you could put without taking your rocker boxes off and taking your heads off is the 475, 6, whatever they are from the different brands. So the guy that said you could have got the same numbers from a good cam, and an intake and an injectors, we appreciate the feedback. It's a great comment, it's a great suggestion, but at the same time, you know, 1 + 1 = 2, and in your world, it sounds like it equals 3. So to touch on Sharfabit's comment on the board there, where he basically said in a nutshell, a bigger cam doesn't equal bigger power. Yeah, dude, you're 100% right. We deal with this every day when guys are talking about a big cam, big cam, big cam. So here's the thing. The bigger the cam does not equal bigger power. And you're right, it does kill reliability and smoothness, et cetera, which is why in our particular case, we didn't go with the 550 that S&S recommends with their power pack. We went with a smaller cam. In our case with this build, we wound up going with a 540 cam. The reason we still went that big isn't because we were searching for the biggest cam. It's because from experience, we've put the smaller cams, we've put all the cams leading up to that on different size motors, and we know what works. That being said, the biggest cam doesn't equal more power, but at the same time, a bigger motor with a smaller cam also doesn't make power. So in my case, for example, on my own bike, I have the same 128 kit, and I actually put a 475. Why did I put a 475? Because I thought, okay, man, we're putting 475s in stock motors and they're making 110, 115. They must be a good cam and they're smooth as hell. So you know what? Let me put one of these in. But with my application with the bigger intake, I do have bigger injectors and throttle body, you know, all that good stuff. And the 128, the 475 actually hurt me. The cam was a bit too small for my application, so I wound up going with a bigger cam, which is why in Matt's case, we chose to go with a bigger cam, but at the same time, not the biggest cam. For those of you that know, there's 2 or 3 sizes bigger from S&S alone, not including Star Racing, Vance, this, that, and all the rest of them that all have their own little numbers, but roughly do the same thing. So to touch on another comment, somebody commented that dyno numbers can be manipulated to show higher numbers, that they thought it was interesting. I don't have the person's name. I don't know if you have the person's name.
L. Greer.
So L. Greer. So yes, you are correct. You can. So there's different settings, SAE, DIN, JIS, blah, blah, blah. There's like 6 or 7 of them. Then there's a smoothing factor from 0 to 5. So if you change the smoothing factor, numbers go up. You lower it goes, the number goes up. If you change the setting, JIS, DIN, SAE, and all the rest of them, the numbers do go up and down. So a lot of tuners will go in and find the best combo that brings the numbers up, and that's what they'll give you. Or a lot of manufacturers and a lot of people will show dyno numbers with 0 correction and STD, which is standard. That's the one that shows generally the biggest number. So a lot of people were doing that. Now that's back in the day, because nowadays, because of the internet and vlogging and forums and people bringing this to light, a lot more manufacturers and tuners are like, oh, we can't really do that because they'll question us. Like, people are getting wise to these little dyno tricks. There's other things where the leaner the bike is, the more numbers it'll make. So let's just say, hypothetically, I wanted to fool Matt and Dan and the boys at Indestructible. So I could have put their dyno graph in STD with the click of a button after tuning, put the smoothing factor from 5 to 0. All of a sudden the horsepower number shows whatever, 5 horsepower more and 5 torque more. Then I could pull 10% or 15% fuel out of the bike across the board, do a quick run. All of a sudden it makes 5 horsepower more than it made when I actually tuned it to its best performance all around. And on top of the 5 that I manipulated the dyno graph to read, all of a sudden he's getting a graph that shows 10 horsepower and 10 foot-pounds more, hypothetically, than what he actually is gonna be riding with. So that's the type of scumbaggery that does and can go on. So, you know, the hope of answering these questions and doing some of these videos is that you know, the consumer, the hobbyist, the person that gives a crap can, you know, put the foot down and know what to expect and know the tricks, right? Because at the end of the day, even when I was tuning Matt's bike, I made more horsepower while tuning. It usually makes more horsepower while tuning, but it's lean. It's not ideal, you know? And as I start tuning, I gotta find the happy medium where it's not too rich, it's not too lean, it's at different air fuel, at different RPMs and different throttle positions to give him not the highest horsepower bike, not the highest torque bike, but the best all-around performing, smoothness, reliability, not running too hot, fuel economy, just the all-around perfect machine that he can ride for 100,000 kilometers without it, you know, kissing the sky.